Lifespan: Why We Age, and Why We Don't Have to, by David A. Sinclair, Ph.D. Introduction. I want you to meet someone. Her name was Vera. She grew up in Hungary, in a time of poets and painters, spending her summers swimming in cool lakes. But history had other plans. When the Nazis came, they took over the hotel her family ran, turning it into an SS command center. A decade later, under Soviet rule, she wrote and handed out anti-communist flyers in the streets of Budapest. When the revolution was crushed, she fled with her young son to the furthest place she could think of, Australia. She never looked back. Vera was one of the first women to wear a bikini on Sydney's famous Bondi Beach and got chased off for it. She even lived for years by herself in the rugged wilds of New Guinea. She was fearless, vibrant, and full of life. She insisted her grandsons, one of whom would grow up to be a world-famous scientist, never call her grandmother. To everyone, she was simply Vera. Vera taught them to live with the awe of a child. She would say, "Don't grow up. Never grow up," and for decades, she didn't. Well into her 70s, she was the life of every party, telling stories, laughing late into the night, a whirlwind of energy. But then, the clock started to tick louder. By her mid-80s, the vibrant Vera was gone. She became frail, sick, a shell of her former self. The music that once made her dance now gave her no joy. She once told her grandson, "This is just the way it goes." She passed away at 92, and by all accounts, she'd lived a good, long life. But her grandson, David Sinclair, couldn't shake a haunting thought. The person she truly was, she had been gone for years already. What happened to Vera happens to all of us, and to everyone we love. We call it aging. We call it natural. We say, it's just the way it goes. But what if it isn't? What if aging isn't a natural law, but a disease? And what if that disease is treatable? This is the revolutionary idea at the heart of Lifespan, a book by that little boy Vera taught to never grow up. Drive. David Sinclair, now a tenured professor of genetics at Harvard Medical School. This isn't just a book about adding a few more years to your life. It's a guide to a future where we don't just live longer, but we live younger for longer. By the end of our journey today, you'll understand why everything you thought you knew about aging is wrong. And you'll discover the simple, actionable steps you can start taking today to rewrite your own biological clock. This isn't science fiction. This is what's happening right now, at the cutting edge of human knowledge. And it's going to change everything. Book summary. Let's start with a question that seems almost too big to ask. Why do we get old? For centuries, we've just accepted it. We get gray hair, our skin wrinkles, our bodies become frail. We get diseases, heart disease, cancer, dementia, and we see them as separate problems to be solved. Our modern medical system is like a game of whack-a-mole. A disease pops up, and we spend billions of dollars trying to whack it down. We've gotten pretty good at it. But drive. Sinclair points out a fundamental flaw in this approach. If we cured all cancer, every single case, it would only add about 2.1 years to the average human lifespan. If we cured all heart disease, it would add just 1.5 years. Why? Because another disease is always waiting right behind it. We're not treating the root cause. We're only treating the symptoms. The real disease, the one that is the greatest risk factor for all the others, is aging itself. So, what is the root cause? For a long time, scientists had different theories. Maybe our DNA gets damaged over time, like a document that gets photocopied too many times. This was called the DNA damage theory. Or maybe it's free radicals, rogue molecules that bounce around inside our cells causing damage. But Sinclair points to a simple, profound paradox that shows these theories can't be the full story: cloning. Think about Dolly the sheep, the first mammal ever cloned. She was created from the cell of a 6-year-old adult sheep. If the DNA in that adult cell was fundamentally damaged or corrupted by age, Dolly would have been born old. But she wasn't. She was born a healthy, young lamb. Since then, scientists have cloned many animals from adults, and they consistently live normal, healthy lifespans. This is a stunning revelation. It means that even in an old body, the fundamental genetic information to create a young, healthy body is still perfectly intact. So if the problem isn't the information itself, what is it? This is where drive. Sinclair introduces his groundbreaking idea, the information theory of aging. He asks us to imagine our body's information in two forms. First, there's the digital information. This is your genome, your DNA. It's a robust code, written in 4 letters, A, T, C, and G. Like the data on a DVD, it's incredibly stable and can be copied with near-perfect accuracy for thousands of years. This is the blueprint for you. But then, there's the analog information. This is the epigenome. If the genome is the computer hardware, the epigenome is the software. It doesn't change the DNA code itself, but it tells each cell which parts of the code to read. This is what makes a skin cell and a brain cell, even though they have the exact same DNA. The epigenome does this by physically packaging the DNA, wrapping some genes up tightly so they're silenced, and leaving others open to be read. Now, think about the difference between digital and analog music. A digital MP3 file sounds the same every time you play it. But an analog cassette tape? Over time, it gets warped, stretched, and degraded by magnetic fields. It picks up noise. The music becomes distorted. The information theory of aging proposes that aging is nothing more than the loss of this analog, epigenetic information. Our cells forget how to read the original blueprint. To understand this, Sinclair gives us 2 brilliant analogies. First, imagine a DVD. The digital data is encoded in tiny pits on the disc. But over time, the surface of the DVD gets scratched. The data is still there, but the laser in the DVD player can't read it properly. The movie skips and freezes. Aging, Sinclair says, is the accumulation of these scratches on our epigenome. The digital DNA code is fine, but the cellular machinery can no longer read it correctly. Or, think of the genome as a grand piano. The keys are the genes. The music sheet is the DNA. But the pianist is the epigenome. When we're young, we have a virtuoso pianist who plays the music of life flawlessly. But as time goes on, the pianist gets distracted, a little confused. She starts hitting a few wrong notes. At first, you barely notice. But the mistakes become more and more frequent until the beautiful concerto descends into chaos. The piano is still perfectly tuned. The sheet music is still correct. But the reader of the music is failing. This cellular confusion, this epigenetic noise, is what we call aging. So, what causes the pianist to get so distracted? What's scratching the DVD? The answer, Sinclair discovered, lies in an ancient biological program that has been with us since the dawn of life. He calls it the survival circuit. Let's travel back 4 billion years, to a shallow, primordial pond. Life is just beginning, in the form of tiny, fragile cells. It's a brutal world. Resources are scarce, and the environment is harsh. In this fight for survival, one organism evolves a brilliant advantage. Let's call it Magnus Supersts, the great survivor. It has a simple but powerful two-gene circuit. Gene A's job is to stop the cell from reproducing. Gene B's job is to silence gene A, so when times are good, the cell can make copies of itself. But gene B has a second crucial function. It also helps repair broken DNA. Now, imagine cosmic rays strike the pond, shattering the DNA of all the cells. Most cells, driven by the primal urge to reproduce, just keep dividing. But their broken DNA gets scrambled, and they die. Not our great survivor. When its DNA breaks, the protein made by gene B leaves its post at gene A and rushes over to make repairs. Because it is left, gene A is no longer silenced. It switches on, and the cell stops everything. It stops dividing and hunkers down, diverting all its energy to survival and repair. This is the fundamental trade-off of life: reproduction versus repair. When things are good, you grow. When you're under threat, you defend and repair. This simple survival circuit was so successful that it has been passed down through billions of years of evolution. It's in every plant, every fungus, and every animal on Earth. It is in us. Our modern version of this survival circuit is run by a family of genes called sirtuins. You can think of sirtuins as the emergency response team for your cells. They are the guardians of the epigenome, the conductors of the cellular orchestra. Their main job is to travel around the genome, keeping genes silenced that should be silenced, and maintaining cellular identity, making sure the pianist plays the right notes. But, just like their ancient ancestor gene B, they also have that second job: DNA repair. And here's the problem. Life is messy. Our DNA is constantly breaking. Every day, trillions of breaks occur in our bodies just from normal processes, not to mention damage from UV rays, X-rays, or even chemicals in our food. Each time a break happens, the sirtuins are called away from their regular job of regulating genes. They rush to the site of the damage to coordinate repairs. When we're young, this system works perfectly. The sirtuins go out, fix the problem, and return to their original posts. The pianist might miss a beat, but quickly finds her place again. But as we get older, and the breaks become more frequent, the sirtuins are constantly being pulled away. It's like an emergency crew in a city with fires, floods, and earthquakes happening all at once. The crews are so busy rushing from one disaster to the next that they start to forget where home is. They don't always return to the genes they were supposed to be silencing. Some genes that should be off, turn on. Some that should be on, turn off. This is the source of the epigenetic noise. This is what scratches the DVD. This is what distracts the pianist. The cells start to lose their identity. They become dysfunctional. And this, Sinclair argues, is the singular reason why we age. All the hallmarks of aging, mitochondrial decay, senescent zombie cells, telomere shortening, they are all downstream consequences of this fundamental loss of information. This is a powerful theory. But is there proof? This led Drive, Sinclair's lab at Harvard, to conduct a remarkable experiment. They created what they call ice mice, which stands for inducible changes to the epigenome. Using a gene from a slime mold, they created mice in which they could turn on an enzyme that would cut the DNA at specific, harmless places in the genome. The cell's natural repair machinery would then immediately stitch the DNA back together, leaving no mutations. They weren't damaging the digital code. They were just creating temporary breaks, the noise, that would force the sirtuins to get distracted. What happened? The mice were perfectly fine during the treatment. But a few months later, a postdoc called Sinclair in a panic. "One of the mice is really sick," she said. "I think we need to put it down." Sinclair asked for a photo. When it came through on his phone, he laughed. "That's not a sick mouse," he replied. "That's an old mouse." At just 16 months old, the ice mouse had all the signs of old age: thinning, gray fur, a bent spine, cloudy eyes, and paper-thin ears. Its littermates, who hadn't received the treatment, were still young and healthy. When they measured the mouse's biological age using an epigenetic clock, it was 50% older than its siblings. This was the smoking gun. They had accelerated aging without creating a single mutation. They had done it simply by creating epigenetic noise. As Sinclair writes, we hadn't given the mice all of those ailments. We had given them aging. And if you can give something, you can take it away. This is where the story shifts from a fascinating problem to an incredibly hopeful solution. If aging is caused by our survival circuits being overworked and our epigenome getting noisy, then the key to staying young is to activate those same circuits in a controlled way, without causing actual damage. This concept is called hormesis. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. By introducing mild, beneficial stress, we can nudge our sirtuins and other longevity genes into action, boosting our cellular defenses and quieting the epigenetic noise. Drive. Sinclair outlines several ways we can do this right now. First, eat less often. Calorie restriction has been shown for almost a century to extend the lifespan of nearly every organism it's been tested on, from yeast to mice to monkeys. But who wants to be hungry all the time? The good news is, you don't have to be. Intermittent fasting, skipping a meal or two a day, or restricting your eating to a specific window of time, appears to provide many of the same benefits. When your body senses a lack of nutrients, it triggers the survival circuit. It's a powerful signal to hunker down and repair. Second, high-intensity interval training HIIT. All exercise is good, but short bursts of intense activity are particularly effective at inducing hormesis. This kind of stress tells your body to build stronger mitochondria, grow new blood vessels, and activate your longevity genes. Exercise, at a cellular level, literally turns on the genes to make us young again. Third, get uncomfortably hot and cold. Exposing your body to less than comfortable temperatures is another way to trigger the survival circuit. This is why things like saunas and cold plunges are so beneficial. They activate protective brown fat and boost mitochondrial function. These are powerful tools available to everyone. But what about the next level? This brings us to the molecules that can mimic the effects of hormesis. Sinclair's lab became famous for its work on resveratrol, a compound found in the skin of red grapes. Stressed plants produce these molecules to protect themselves, and when we consume them, it seems to trigger our own survival circuits. While resveratrol itself may not be a magic pill, it was a crucial proof of concept. A single molecule could activate sirtuins and extend lifespan in the lab. More promising today are molecules that boost levels of a critical chemical called NAD, which stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. NAD is the fuel for sirtuins. Without it, they can't do their job. The problem is, as we age, our NAD levels plummet. By age 50, you have about half the NAD you did in your 20s. This has led to a race to find NAD-boosting molecules. Two of the most studied are NMN nicotinamide mononucleotide and NR nicotinamide riboside. In mice, giving them NMN in their drinking water has produced astounding results. Old mice on NMN could run almost twice as far as their untreated counterparts, so far, in fact, that they broke the lab's treadmill. They had better blood flow, stronger muscles, and reversed many indicators of aging. The personal stories are just as compelling. Sinclair shares that his own father, in his late 70s, was starting to show the typical signs of decline. After starting to take NMN, his energy returned. Today, at 80, He's hiking mountains, whitewater rafting, and has even started a new career. He's living life like a teenager again. But all of this, diet, exercise, even NAD boosters, is about slowing down the scratches on the DVD. What if we could polish the disc and restore it to its original, pristine state? This is the final, most mind-bending part of the book: age reversal. We already know it's possible. The process of cloning proves that the youthful information is still there. The question is, how do we access it without creating a whole new clone? In 2006, a Japanese scientist named Shinya Yamanaka made a Nobel Prize-winning discovery. He found a set of just 4 genes that, when activated in an adult cell, could erase its epigenetic identity and turn it back into a pluripotent stem cell, the kind of cell you find in an embryo, capable of becoming any cell in the body. These are called the Yamanaka factors. They are the biological reset switch. The problem is, if you activate them for too long in a living animal, you can erase cellular identity completely, causing tumors. But what if you could turn them on just for a little while? Could you reset the epigenetic clock without pushing the cells all the way back to zero? This is exactly what Sinclair's lab has now done. Using a safe virus, they delivered 3 of the 4 Yamanaka factors into old mice. And they decided to test it on one of the hardest problems in biology: regenerating nerve cells. They took old mice that had lost their vision due to age and mice whose optic nerves they had crushed, an injury that, like a spinal cord injury, is considered irreversible. Then, they activated the reprogramming genes. The results were breathtaking. The damaged optic nerves grew back. And the old, blind mice? Their vision was restored. Think about what this means. They didn't just slow down aging. They reversed it. They polished the scratches off the DVD, and the cells were able to read the youthful information again. They reminded the demented pianist how to play the music. This isn't a distant dream. This is happening in labs today. The future Sinclair envisions is one where, every decade or so, we might get a reboot, a therapy that resets our epigenome, clears out the damage, and restores our bodies to a younger biological state. A world where 90 is the new 50. A world where you have the energy and health to start a new career, learn a new skill, or play with your great-great-grandchildren. Of course, this raises huge questions. What about overpopulation? What about inequality? Will only the rich get to live longer? Sinclair addresses these challenges head-on. He argues that historically, every time human health and longevity have improved, birth rates have gone down. A healthier, longer-living population is also a more innovative and productive one, capable of solving the very problems it creates. The goal, he insists, must be to make these therapies as affordable and accessible as antibiotics or vaccines. The journey Sinclair takes us on in lifespan is nothing short of extraordinary. It starts with a simple, heartbreaking observation about his grandmother and ends with a vision for the future of humanity that is both audacious and, as he shows us, increasingly within our grasp. He dismantles one of our most deeply held beliefs, that aging is inevitable, and replaces it with a new and empowering truth: our longevity is far more within our control than we ever dared to imagine. Commentary. After you finish a book like Lifespan, it's hard to see the world in the same way. The idea that aging is a disease, and a treatable one, is so profound that it feels like being let in on one of humanity's greatest secrets. For me, the most powerful takeaway isn't just the science, as incredible as it is. It's the shift in perspective. We are so used to a narrative of decline. We're taught to accept that our bodies will fail, our minds will fade, and our world will shrink. Drive. Sinclair offers us a different story. It's a story of vitality, resilience, and potential. It's not about cheating death or clinging to life in a frail state. It's about extending health span, the years of our life spent in good health, free from disease and full of energy. It's about making sure that the person we are, our true self, doesn't disappear years before our body does. The beauty of this book is that it doesn't just present a far-off future. It gives us a path forward, starting today. The principles of hormesis, eating less, exercising more, and embracing discomfort, aren't complicated or expensive. They are simple ways to communicate with our ancient survival circuits, to gently nudge our bodies back towards a state of youthful resilience. If I were to suggest a few simple actions you could take right now, inspired by this book, they would be these. First, try skipping one meal tomorrow. Just one. See how it feels to let your body experience a brief period of want. You are activating ancient pathways that have been dormant for far too long. Second, find a way to get out of breath for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a full workout. It could be running up a flight of stairs, doing a few sets of push-ups, or even just a brisk walk up a hill. That mild stress is a powerful signal to your longevity genes. And third, the next time you take a shower, end it with 30 seconds of cold water. It's uncomfortable, but that shock is another way to wake up those dormant survival circuits. These small actions are the first steps on the path Sinclair lays out. They are ways of starting a conversation with your own biology, reminding it of the strength and resilience that is coded into your very being. That was a summary of Lifespan, Why We Age, and Why We Don't Have to, by David A. Sinclair. We've touched on the monumental ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only be a map. The real treasure is found when you make the journey yourself. The true power of this book lies in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story connects with your own life, or a scientific concept suddenly clicks into place and illuminates your world in a new way. This summary is your guidepost, to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've explored today sparked a fire in you, I urge you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning information. It's an experience that could fundamentally change how you approach every single day you have left. Also, if this journey through Lifespan has given you a new perspective, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that we're on the right track, and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep discovering these powerful ideas together.